Okay, we today's daf is Yudches 18. We are at the bottom of Yud Zayin Amid Beis, and the Gemara just concluded that in the four-way machlokas that we had in regards to liquids, whether they are itself susceptible to tumah, and whether they can cause tumah to other things, where the strictest opinion was Rabbi Yehuda, who said that it can cause tumah. And not only do they become tummy, but they can cause tumah to other things as well, and to all other things. And the Gemara said that Rabbi Yehuda had retracted. And the Gemara is going to ask here: did Rabbi Yehuda retract completely and say it can that he no longer thinks that on a Torah level it can cause tumah to anything, even though that midrabanan it will cause tumah? Or do we say no, that Rabbi Yehuda retracted only in regards to food, in regards to vessels, but food can still it would still cause tumah. So Gemara asks a question. This is 6 lines from the bottom on Yud Zayin Amid Beis. Did Rabbi Yehuda retract from kalim, from vessels, and say that that there is no? He no longer says that on a Torah level liquids will cause tumah to vessels. But in regards to food, he will concur with Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, who both say, as we saw earlier, that it does cause tumah on a Torah level to food, and therefore, if there is a doubt whether or not the liquid touched vessels, we're going to be lenient. But if we're in doubt whether it touched food, we're going to be strict. Or did he completely retract like Rabbi Meir, which holds that there is no tumah at all on a Torah level from a liquid to other things? So Rav Nachman Yitzchak would like to prove it from a Mishnah. Parash Shasasa Mechatas, a cow that drank some water from a red heifer water. We know that the para aduma is burned, and then the red heifer is burned, and then the water, the fresh water and the ma'im chayim gets ash with it, and that becomes the water that is spritzed on someone who is tameh by coming into contact with a dead person, and on the Shlishi and Shavi, the 3rd and 7th day, and that becomes their tahara process, their process for purification. The waters of mechatas, the spritz water from the red heifer water, is actually contradictory in that it would purify the person who is tameh, but it also causes tumah to those that handle it. And so this cow now drank water that essentially would make it tummy. And then while this cow has, just after it drank, and so the water is in its stomachs, it gets shachted. It is slaughtered. So now the cow essentially became food with water that can make it tummy inside of it. Tummy. So indeed, the water, besara tummy, its meat, does become tummy. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, however, Rabbi Yehuda says, Batlu b'mei'eha. Rabbi Yehuda says that no, this water becomes nullified inside it. Since it no longer can be spritzed as red heifer water, therefore this water becomes nullified. And the Gemara understands at this point that the idea is that since it can no longer be used to sanctify or to purify somebody who came into contact with a deceased person, so it can no longer be used to spritz on the 3rd and 7th day. So it doesn't have the ability to cause tumah anymore. However,
why I was wondering why. When is the concept of tumah's basis storing come into play?
Tumah's what?
Basis storing. I mean, isn't the water is inside? So how could it be metame?
Um, I'm not sure what you.
We learned in Chulin there's such a concept as tumas basis storing. It's not tuma. There's no.
Oh, yeah. I didn't hear what you were saying. Tumas base hastarim. So the concept of tumas base hastarim is the idea that something that is not open doesn't have tuma will not be contracted by contact that is done in an enclosed hidden space, such as in a cavity of a body. But over here, the idea is that the water will touch any part of the body. So for latame tumachamura, it's going to in the end touch parts of the body, and that's the idea. The water itself. So the Gemara says, okay. So Rabbi Yehuda understands that the water is no longer valid for spritzing as the red heifer water to make tahar someone who came into contact with a dead person with a tamei mace. Okay, but the water itself is still tamei because the water touched itself, and the water became tamei from something that was a tamei mace. That was red heifer water. So even though it's no longer worthy of being red heifer water, the water itself should be tamei. And therefore it should make the meat tamei. And from the fact that it doesn't say so, must be that it cannot cause tumah at all. And therefore, if you think that he only retracted from vessels, but by foods, he still holds like Rabbi Meir, like Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon that say that liquids can cause tumah to foods. Why do you say that it's completely removed and nullified in the stomach of the cow? It's true that it's not strong enough to have a strict tumah, which means the more severe tumah, which can cause even vessels to become tamei. And that would be required if it was still in the status of red heifer water, of made chatas. But tumah kala, but a more lenient tumah, which is the tumah that an easier tumah, the one that which is really stricter, meaning it acts more broadly, but that means that it has an easier time causing tumah. So it's a tumah kala. That's the tumah to food. That food is more susceptible to tumah. It happens more often. More things can cause tumah to food. So tumah kala, miyonitmu, let the water at least be considered tamei because it touched itself. So the water itself, as it became not worthy of being the red heifer water anymore to be spritzed, so it lost its status as red heifer water, and then that water touched itself, and so it itself is tamei, and it should cause tumah to the food. So the Gemara says, yeah, indeed, that would be proof if we understood the meaning of that the red heifer water became nullified entirely. But that's not what it means. My butler b'me'el. What does it mean that these waters became nullified in the stomach of the cow? Nami butler mitumah chamura. All it means is that it no longer counts as red heifer water, and therefore it can cause tumah to food, but not to vessels. Avo tumah kala mitama. But tumah kala, a lesser tumah, meaning to food, it would indeed still be able to cause tumah to the cow as food. The Gemara says, wait, that doesn't work. Michlal, the Tanakama Sava tumah chamura nami mitama. So what you're telling me is that the first opinion, which said that Rabbi Yehuda is disagreeing with the first opinion, says no, this water is nullified, and you're telling me what Rabbi Yehuda means is that it's nullified and can't make vessels tamei, but it can still make the cow itself, the food, tamei. So what's the first opinion saying? The first opinion also said that, and if you're saying they're disagreeing, well, you're forcing us to say that the first opinion said that even it's still tamei enough to cause vessels tumah, but that's not what he said. The first opinion said bisra tamei, the meat of the cow is tamei. Ha bisra tamei katani, but it said that only meat is its meat is tummy, meaning it doesn't have the strength to cause tuma to anything else. So Gemara first says, actually, you're misinterpreting this brisa to be two opinions. No, it's all the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and it's just written short. But this is what it means. Kula Rabbi Yehuda v'chasura mechsara, and it would be missing text, and this is what it means to have written. A cow that ate, that drank the mechatas water, its meat would be tamei. But it itself is tamei as a tumakala because it causes tuma to food. Avol tuma chamura, but it doesn't have the ability to still cause tuma to vessels because the water became nullified. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda says that in the innards of this cow, the waters became nullified from being able to be spritzed for red heifer, for mechatas as red heifer water, and therefore it cannot cause tuma anymore. But it itself is tamei, and therefore it can cause the food, meaning the meat, tamei, tuma. That's the first opinion, saying that no, Ravashi, that Rabbi Yehuda is really all the one single opinion in this Mishnah. Ravashi, however, Ravashi says Ravashi says no. In truth, I can tell you it's completely nullified in the innards, and it doesn't cause tuma to anything at all, even to food. And it's not because Rabbi Yehuda says that liquids can't cause tuma to food. He holds perhaps still like Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon that it can cause tuma to food. Nevertheless, this is going to be worse than anything else on account of that. Once it's inside the innards of the cow, even for a few seconds, it became putrid, and it became putrid. And we saw earlier that the source of liquid causing tuma is from kol mashke asher yishase b'chol kli, all liquid that would be drunk, that is in any a vessel. Anything that you would have as a drink, this is no longer included in that. And so that pasuk, which doesn't say kol mashke, any liquid that's in a vessel, but kol mashke asher yishase, any liquid that you would have as a drink, there the Torah is telling us that mashke saruach, a liquid that's putrid, is no longer included and cannot cause tuma. Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon Amrin. So that's a clarification of the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda in that halacha that we saw earlier. We also saw earlier that there was an opinion of Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon who said that liquid is a hybrid. It cannot cause tuma to vessels on a Torah level, but from a midoraisa on a Torah level, it can cause tuma to food. So Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon Amrin la'ochlim tamein la'kelim taharim. Amar Rabba bar Bachana, Amar Reish Lakish. So Rabba bar Bachana said in the name of Reish Lakish that Rabbi Yossi b'shitas Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Amra. Rabbi Yossi was following the opinion of his teacher, of his Rabbi Akiva. It's interesting that we have Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon here, both primary students of Rabbi Akiva. We also had the opinions of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, also primary students of Rabbi Akiva. After Rabbi Akiva lost his 24,000 students during the period between Pesach and Shavuos, he reestablished his teaching, and the five main students that he had at that point were Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua. And here we have this machlokes about the liquid causing tumah between these students. And Reish Lakish said that Rabbi Yossi is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, their teacher. The Dorish Yitma Yitama. And the drash is based on the verses we saw the past few days in regards to liquid causing tumah, that when the Torah says a few times in these verses, the Torah says Yitma, as opposed to Tameh, that it is Tameh. Yitma, it will become tamei. It's in the active form as opposed to just that it is tamei. And Rabbi Akiva's drash on this is that the Torah uses that form because the spelling of yitma also can be read as yitama. It will cause tuma to others. So not only does it become tamei, it will cause tuma. And the source is using over here is in pasuk in Vayikra Yud Aleph 11:33. And we saw this pasuk, any earthenware vessel, v'chol keli, the Tanan, as we learned, b'biyom, and this is, and we know the Gemara says that anytime it says on that day, b'biyom, on that day is referring to the day that Rabbi Gamaliel was removed from his status as Nasi, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was placed as the leader, and more students were brought into the academy, and a lot of teaching was taught on that day. And Dorash Rabbi Akiva darshan on that day. V'chol kali cheres. This is in regards to a rodent, a sheretz, coming into contact with tumah and causing tumah. So it says in any earthenware vessel, and earthenware vessels are unique in tumah that it does not need touch for it to cause tumah. Rather, its tumah is by its inner airspace. As soon as the sheretz comes into the airspace of the earthenware vessel, it is the vessel and its contents would be tumah. If the sheretz touches the outside, it would not cause tumah. So touch doesn't cause tumah to an earthenware vessel. It's the airspace that causes tumah. So v'chol kali cheres asher yipel mehem, that of the sheretz of a sheretz would come into the inside el tocho. Kol asher b'socho, anything that's inside this vessel, yitma. Now, it doesn't say tamei. It should just say everything that's inside is tamei, but it doesn't. It says yitma, which is the active form, to tell us yitama, that it can cause tumah. Eino emer tamei. It doesn't say the word tamei, which is just mean it is tamei, but rather yitma, it actively is tamei, meaning yitama acherim, that it will cause tumah to other things. Limeid, and what that teaches us is al kikar sheni she'es hashlishi b'chul. So what is the content of this vessel? The sheretz, by coming into the airspace of the earthenware vessel, makes the vessel tamei. So the vessel is a first level tumah, rishon l'tumah. The food inside, that bread inside the earthenware vessel, is going to be a sheni l'tumah, a second level tumah. Now, generally, we were saying up until now that the second level tumah, if it's not teruma and it's not kachim, doesn't cause tumah, because for mundane things on a Torah level, there's only two levels of tumah, rishon and sheni, meaning two secondary levels, two levels besides for the primary. Here, Rabbi Akiva is saying from this verse, he learns that actually there's a third, that even the bread can cause tumah, because it doesn't say tamei, it is tamei, but yitma, actively it is tamei, meaning yitama, it can cause tumah. So the second level tumah, the bread, having become tamei from the vessel, which had become tamei from the primary, the sheretz, the rodent, is now going to cause tumah to something else, to another item. So we see that the food can cause tumah.
How about why does it mention that there could be a nafka for people who eat kuchulin on taras kodesh? For them, there would be a nafka for sure, without any question, right?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
A person who eats chulin on taras kodesh, so there's no question that for them there could be a shlishi nechulin.
That we talked about already elsewhere. That, does what tumah there is for someone who's being strict and trying to eat whatever, even non-holy things at the level of holy. That's not our conversation. The question is, on a Torah level, does this cause tumah or not?
I mean,
the fact that somebody wants to be strict for themselves doesn't mean that that's the tumah.
They're shver on Rabbi Akiva though.
Why?
Because Rabbi Akiva is saying that there could be a shlishi and chulin, and they're saying how could it be? That's what I understood. I understood the debate that Rabbi Kiva was saying there could be a shlishi and chulin
on a Torah level. D'oraisa.
But I'm saying
you're telling me somebody wants to be strict on themselves. That has nothing to do with this. Of course, people can be strict about it, but we're talking about on a Torah level. The oraisa is direi tumah or not?
They're shver and Rabbi Kiva. I'm saying he's got a teretz. He's talking about people who are
no, he's talking about the pasuk. He's talking about the oraisa. Mm-hmm. Rabbi Akiva is saying Torah level, the oraisa. There is a third level tumah in chulin. The bread can cause something else tumah. You're telling me that, well, doesn't everybody hold that people who are strict on themselves, holding chulin at the level of kodesh, that they're going to have another level tumah? Sure, that's not the oraisa. That means that it's not tamei, but they're going to act as if it's tamei because they want to practice and stay in touch with the way kachim are usually eaten, right? Mm-hmm. But that wouldn't be the pasuk. That wouldn't be a oraisa level tumah. Mm-hmm. Rabbi Akiva is saying that the pasuk is telling us that that the vessel became tamei first level, rishon l'tumah. The bread is a second level tumah, sheni l'tumah, and that can still cause something else tumah from the Torah level, on a oraisa level, right? So v'hacha hechi dorish. So what about our pasuk, which is the next verse in the Torah? The Torah says, after this earthenware vessel, it says, and this is the verse we saw earlier, any food which is edible that water came onto it, yitma, it'll become tamei. And since it says it in the active form, and we say, and it's spelled yitama, and then it says v'chol mashke asher yisasha, and all liquid b'chol kli yitma, which he says yitama. So if Rabbi Akiva says that whenever the Torah spells out yitma instead of just tamei, it means also yitama. It will cause tuma. V'chol mashke asher yisasha. How does he say it in our verse? V'chol mashke asher yisasha, any liquid that is drinkable, b'chol kli, in a vessel, yitma, that it will cause tuma. Now, what will it cause tuma to? Must be that it's going to cause tuma to food. So Gemara says, how do you know? How do you know? Why would you say that it causes tuma to food? Maybe it only causes tuma to other liquids. Liquid will cause tuma to liquid. Do we say, no, wasn't it like this already? Meaning, we already saw that this can't be true. What is it that, no, it cannot be so? We already saw it can't be true. The reason is, we already know it can't be this way because we don't find food causing tumah to food, and we don't find vessels causing tumah to vessels, and we don't find liquid causing tumah to liquid. Tumah does, if an item of tumah does not cause tumah to the same likeness. Ravina, and we'll see soon where we know that food doesn't cause tumah to food. The Gemara is going to show us. Ravina Amar migufe dekra nami le'masas amras. Ravina says, no, in the verse itself you can't say it. Yitma latamas tumas mashkin. You can't say that in this part of the pasuk when it says yitma in regards to the liquids that it is tamei and can cause tuma, that it causes tuma to its own likeness to mashkin, to liquids. The isakadaitach yitma the sefer latame tumas mashkin, because if you're going to tell me the end which says yitma is to cause tuma to its own likeness, meaning to liquid. So yitma doresha nami latame tumas mashkin. Well, then we're also going to have to say we already know that the beginning has to be that it's going to cause tuma to liquids itself. And the first part also, when it says that any food that is edible, that liquid came on it, shall become tamei, is also talking about causing tuma to food. Causing tuma to liquids and not to food. As the Gemara is going to tell us soon, because the verse prior to that should have said that the vessel is tamei, and since we say that it's tamei, we learn that it cannot cause tumah to anything of its likeness, and it can't cause tumah to ochel. Food cannot cause tumah to other food. So when it says that the food is tameh, it means that the food is tameh to cause liquid tameh. Now, if you tell me the liquid is also tameh in as much as that it causes tumah to liquid, so then both the beginning and the end of the verse, the pasuk of both parts of the pasuk are talking about causing tumah to liquid. Well, then the Torah should just put it into one phrase. Why did the Torah say any food which is edible that water came upon it, yitma, comes tameh and can cause tumah, and any liquids that is drinkable that's in a vessel, yitma, comes tameh and causes tumah? Just put it all into one, because both yitmas mean the same, that it can cause tumah to liquid, because the first part, food, cannot cause tumah to food, and so therefore it must be that it causes tumah to liquid. Because if you tell me the end verse is causing tumah to food, to liquid, so yitma dereishanami l'tameh tumas mashkin. Well, the end is also the beginning is also talking about causing tumah to liquids. So it should be written all together. And from the fact that it doesn't, it tells you that the first part, which says yitma, the food becomes tameh, it will cause tumah to drink, to liquids. And the second part, which says liquids become tameh, means it'll cause tumah to foods. And so each one can cause tumah to the other, but they cannot cause tumah to their own likeness. So the Torah should have just said it all in one phrase, without saying yitma, it became tameh by the food, and then yitma, it became tameh by the liquid. Trei yitma lamali. Why does it say both? Ela yitma dereishal tameh tumas mashkin. So by food, when it says tameh, and it can cause tumah, that means that it can cause tumah to liquids. Yitma de seifa. And in the second part of the pasuk, where it says that liquids become tameh, they can cause tumah l'tameh tumas ochlin. They can cause food tameh. So the liquids cause tameh to the food, and the beginning of the pasuk says food can cause tumah to liquids. So the Gemara says, how do you know? Maybe the first part is saying it causes tumah to food, causes tumah to liquid, and liquid causes tumah to vessels. So here the Gemara is going to say, no, it's not logical, because vessels are more difficult to make tummy. They are less likely to become tummy. Less things can cause tumah to it. So v'lav kal v'chomer, isn't it a kal v'chomer? Uma kli shemetame mashke, a metame kli, a vessel which can cause tumah to liquids, as it says in the verse before that the earthenware vessel, anything that's in it becomes tameh. So it can cause tumah to liquids, yet it cannot cause tumah to another vessel. A vessel cannot cause tumah to a vessel. So then for sure, a liquid which becomes tameh on account of a vessel. Isn't it obvious it cannot cause tumah to vessels? The vessel itself cannot cause tumah to a vessel. The liquid which becomes tameh from a vessel, for sure it can't cause tumah to a vessel. It can't be stronger than its source of tumah itself. So Gemara says, okay, ve'ema ki la metame mashke aboy machmas kli, ava mashke aboy machmasher tzachanami the metame. So the Gemara says, okay, if you're right, if the sorry, John. So food, liquid, tummy, different.
I'm a mate.
A dead person comes into contact with anything is going to cause tumah. Here we're talking about a tumah sheretz, and what it can secondarily make. And
right. So with a dead person, there's 5 levels, right? And if a thing touches another thing, it automatically passes it.
So so that would be a avhatuma, right? A liquid or a solid or a vessel that touch a dead person itself becomes a primary source tumah, not a secondary source tumah, because the dead person itself is avi avos. So you're right, John. in that case, they would cause tumah because they are primary tumah. They are like the rodent in our case.
Okay.
But we're talking about in secondary tumas, first level, second level, third level, whatever level we're on. In the secondaries, there we're saying that a vessel cannot cause another vessel tumah. A vessel cannot cause a liquid can't cause tumah, and that's what we're really talking about.
But doesn't, in the case of a mace, I thought let's say you have a kli that touches the mace, right? And then the kli touches food. That's not creating another primary of tumah, right? It's creating a secondary in the shlishi.
Well, it'll start off as first level, even though
Right.
it'll start off correct. So the vessel itself becomes the primary, and then it hands it off as a secondary from there. And then all these secondary laws will come into play. Does that make sense? So again, when it comes to tummy mace, all you have to do is remove the dead person from the scenario and look at whatever touched the dead person as the same level as the rodent in the sheretz in our scenario. And so when that touches, the sheretz touches food or comes into contact with food, so then the food becomes tameh as a secondary, first level secondary tumah. Sheni, and then when it touches something else, it would be secondary, second level secondary tumah, third level, fourth level, etc.
Got it. Thanks.
Sure. So the Gemara asked, how do you know that in our mission, in our pasuk, it means the liquid causes tumah to a food? Maybe it doesn't cause tumah to food. Maybe it means it causes tumah to a vessel. The Gemara says it can't be. If a vessel cannot cause tumah to another vessel, so a liquid which became tumah from a vessel cannot cause tumah to another vessel. It can't be stronger than its own source. So the Gemara says, okay, I accept that. However, what about a liquid that became tummy from the sheretz itself? That means the rodent touched the water, touched the liquid. In that case, it should be able to cause tumah to a vessel. So Gemara says, "Mashken aboy mach masheretz miksivi." Well, and here we turn to Yud Ches Amud Beis. Is there even a pasuk in the Torah that talks about liquid that directly became tameh from the sheretz? No, the Torah only talks about the liquids that are in a vessel, and it's talking about the vessel that the sheretz was in the airspace of the vessel, made the vessel tameh, and then the vessel made the water tameh. And so we're learning it from a vessel making water tumah. And so that's our only source in the Torah. So the Torah is essentially telling us that the liquids that are causing tumah cannot be stronger than its source of tumah, the vessel. And if a vessel cannot cause tumah to vessels, the liquid which are tumah on account of the vessel for sure cannot cause tumah to vessels. So when the Torah says that the liquids can cause tumah, it cannot cause tumah to a vessel, because in the Torah, its primary source is the vessel, and the vessel can't cause tumah to a vessel. So the secondary cannot be stronger than its primary source. The Gemara says, "V'lav mekal v'chomer kasi." Aren't you bringing it from mekal v'chomer? Uma mashkin habayim machmas kli metamin mashkin metamin mashkin habayim machmas sheretz lekol shekein. If so how do we now know? So how do we now know that liquid causes tumah to other food? So we say like this. Well, in the Torah, we're saying that the liquid inside the vessel becomes tummy, and it can cause tumah. Well, if a vessel can cause tumah to a liquid, which then can cause tumah, so then for sure the primary source of tumah, the sheretz itself, can cause tumah to a liquid that can cause tumah. And therefore it should cause tumah even to a greater, even to vessels. The Gemara says, no, whenever you learn a kal v'chomer, something from something else, even though that thing is stronger, we never up it. So we're not going to say, look, a vessel can cause tumah to liquids, which cause tumah, something else. And when we up at one level and we say the primary source of tumah, the sheretz touches water, it touches liquid, and the liquid touches something else, it should be stronger and therefore have more things that it can cause tumah to. Say no. We never, if we're learning it by comparison to something else, even though we're learning it by a kal v'chomer, a fortiori kind argument, which says it's logical to say if that's true in the weaker case, for sure it's true in the stronger case. Yes, it's true that that's a logical argument, but we can't take it to the next level and say, and therefore it can do more. It can never, we never say that it can do more than where we're learning it from. And so if in the case of the vessel, it cannot cause tumah to vessels, so too in the case of where the sheretz touch it directly, it also cannot cause tumah to vessels. So then yitma dereisha hechi darish. The Gemara says, okay, so we accept that the liquids are going to cause tumah to food. What's the interpretation of the first part of the pasuk that tells us that it can cause tumah to liquids and not to food? It says, all foods that are eaten, that liquids came onto it, it itself is actively tummy, meaning yitama, it can be, it causes tumah. Yitama latame samashkin. It'll cause tumah to liquids. It was said only liquids, and it cannot cause tumah to itself, to its own kind, to food. So Gemara says, how do you know that? You tell me that it means to cause tumah to liquids. Maybe it means that it causes tumah to vessels. Amris kavachomer. So we say, no, it's logical that we shouldn't say that. Liquids which cause tumah to food cannot cause tumah to vessels, as we just proved, because it cannot be stronger than its own source. And the Torah's source of liquid tumah is from inside a vessel. And a vessel cannot cause tumah to vessels. So therefore, liquids which become tumah from the vessel cannot be stronger than its own source of tumah, so it cannot cause tumah to vessels. So what does it cause tumah to? It causes tumah to food. So liquids which cause tumah to food cannot cause tumah to vessels. Food which cannot cause tumah to food, because it's its own kind. So therefore, it cannot cause tumah to vessels either. So therefore, what does the Torah mean when it says yitma? It is tameh. It writes it in a way that's read yitama. It can cause tumah. Latame samashkin must be that it causes tumah to liquids. Shehena lulin lekabil tumah, because liquids are most likely to be susceptible to tumah. That is something that becomes tummy. My iri mashkin mishum dalulin kabel tumah. Why did you say, oh, and it must be, therefore it's liquids, because liquids are most likely to become tummy? Well, typically, it's because there's nothing else left. It can either cause tumah to vessels, which you tell me it can't. It either causes tumah to food, which you tell me it can't. So therefore, the only thing left is that it can cause tumah to vessels, to liquids. It can't cause tumah to vessels. It can't cause tumah to foods. That's all we're left with. Hachikama. So this is what it means. Maybe you tell me, you know what, food, even though that liquids can't cause tumah to vessels, but perhaps food which is stronger and stricter, therefore it can cause tumah to liquids. And it causes tumah to not only to liquids but also to vessels. So the mashkin, the Gemara says it's a strength of liquids. Mishum the mashkin alula lekabel tumah. Since liquids are more likely to become tameh, therefore they can cause tumah to vessels. Mahi alulin mekabel tumah shalei behechsher. In which way is it more likely to become tameh than food? Because food, the Torah tells us, any food that is edible, that liquid has come upon it. And as we know that all foods need hechsher, it needs a liquid to have come upon it, and only then is it susceptible to tumah. That means that foods are a lower level or a less likely tumah suspect, because it could be that a sheretz touched the food and it's not going to be tummy because it never had a liquid on it, and so it never became susceptible to tumah. Therefore, liquids itself, which don't need obviously to have a liquid come on it, it itself is a liquid, so it's more susceptible to tumah than foods itself. Yitma. So what does it mean? yitma, it causes tuma. Yitama de'in osaka yotzaba, that it cannot cause tuma to its own kind. Mehachanafka, and we learn it from here. So this is the teaching that tells us that it can only cause tuma to itself. It cannot cause tuma itself. It can only, the food will cause tuma not to vessels, not to itself, only to drink. So Gemara says, you learn it from here. Mihasam nafka, but we have another source for that idea. It says, "V'chiyutan mayim al zerav v'nafan v'losam alav tamehu." The Torah says that if it's seed, meaning food, grains, beans, things that are a seed, that water was placed on them, but it's written in a way that it means that it fell on them, but intentionally. Then a dead rodent came upon this food. Tamehu. It doesn't say tame, it's tame, but it says tamehu. It is tame. To tell you only it is tame. Hu tame ve'ino satama keyetzaba. It is tame, but it cannot make other food tame. And so we learn already that food cannot cause tama to food from that primary source of food becoming tame once it was susceptible because of water. So Gemara says, "Chad b'mashkan haba machmas sheretz, chad b'mashkan haba machmas kli." I need two verses to tell me that food cannot cause other foods tame or its likeness tame. One, to tell you that if it became tame from the primary source, that it touched the sheretz itself. And one is to tell you if it became tame through a vessel. Tomorrow we'll see why we need a verse for both of those and why we would have thought that one is not sufficient to teach us this concept that it's enum atama kiyotzeba, that it cannot cause tuma when to its own kind. That food cannot cause tuma to food and drink to drink.